Today we're going to look at multi-factor authentication and single sign-on and some other ways that we can authorize ourselves or authenticate ourselves on a network. Okay, single sign-on. That is the authentication method that enables a user to log into multiple systems using a single identity. Essentially, if you are a Grayson student and you have a MyViking login, then you log into the MyViking portal. You are also logging into Office 365. You're also logging into the student planner. All the little icons that you have, you're logging into each one of those services just by logging into the MyViking portal. So that is a single sign-on authentication page. Multi-factor authentication, if you're a faculty member here, when you put your username and password into the system, then you have to take out your phone and you get a text message from the authentication service, and they want you to respond to that. You have to click on a button that says yes, and essentially that's what allows you to finally log into the network. You can't just do it with a username and password. You do have to have your phone. That is a multi-factor authentication. You have more than one factor. Sometimes it's a phone, sometimes it's a smart dongle, like a USB drive that you have to put into the computer and then put your username and password in. Sometimes it's something like a retina scan or fingerprint scan. It can be biometric in nature, just some other thing besides the typical user and password in addition to the username and password that you have to get in. Authentication factor is a type of evidence. That's the password, that's the username, that's the fingerprint, that is whatever the system is using to provide your identity. A knowledge factor is a piece of information that the user knows. So a knowledge factor may be your password or your username, something that you are aware of. Possession factor is something that you have, like a smart card or one of those USB dongles. And then inheritance factor, that's a physical characteristic. That's biometrics. That's retina scans or fingerprints or something like that. Location factor, that means that the system knows your location and you're logging in from an accepted location or from an authorized location. Sometimes systems don't want you logging in from home. They only want you logging in from work. So you can't, if your IP address doesn't match the work location, for example, or something like that, you may not be able to log in. The behavior factor is an action the user performs. That's something that you can do. Any one of those things can be used as a login. You need to make sure you get this participation activity completed. Knowledge-based authentication, that's username and password basically, or personal information. Sometimes the website will ask you, say you want to get your password reset, it'll ask you security questions that only you know. Static KBA or shared secrets, it's based on a pre-agreed set of shared questions. That would be security questions between an authenticated system and a user. So a user selects the answer to a set of static questions when they register, and then if they need to reset a password or whatever, they can answer those questions, and it provides another level of authentication. Dynamic, on the other hand, that is a set of questions or conditions that are compiled from the user's public and private information, such as credit reports, histories of financial transactions, etc. If you are logging into the IRS and doing your, let's say you're doing your taxes online to TurboTax, you need to know your last year's gross income. It's usually line 23 off your tax return from last year. That would be a dynamic knowledge question. So you have to have that based on your public or private information, credit reports, or in this case, a tax return. So you have to know that information. And if you don't know it, then you are not able to log into your account. Account policy defines how a computer account should be created. This is what the IT administrator comes up with, that based on the needs that the company president or whoever, CTO, give them, the IT administrator comes up with a set of policies based on those needs, and that's what establishes the policy for the company. Password policy, sometimes it's 8 characters, 10 characters, has to have letters and numbers, has to have special characters, capitals and mixed. It can't be part of the last 3 passwords. There are a lot of different policy possibilities, but those would be a password policy. Brute force attack then is a cracking method using trial and error to guess passwords. Essentially, in fact, there is a list of passwords that hackers often use. It's called Rockfish, and it's just a text file with millions of passwords in it. And you'd be surprised, number one, you can try all those passwords very quickly with a computer, and you'd be surprised how fast a computer can go through millions of passwords in trial and error. And a lot of times it'll come to find out they're the most common passwords in use, and a lot of times people use them. And so hackers are able to break into a website using just that text file. Password complexity, that is the requirements for a password, whether it's length, character types, capitals, lowercase, mix, numbers, special characters, whatever. Password history is a list of passwords you've used in the past. It defines how often an old password can be reused. Generally, you can't have reused a password in the last 6 months or a year. Depends on the policy. Sometimes you can't reuse them at all. Password reuse is the act of reusing a password, and sometimes they just won't let you. Password age or lifespan is how long a password lasts before you have to change it. In most companies, it's every 30 days. I know at Grayson, for the administrators, for the faculty members and the staff, it's every 30 days you have to change your password. Another activity here, Password Vault in Password Manager is a program, usually on a computer, that will store your passwords. And if you have access to that computer, then your passwords are automatically added to when you try to log in, they're automatically input. Generally, this is a computer remembering your passwords. User account, that's basically an account that allows you access to a system. Privileged account, that would be an admin account that not only allows you access to the system, but it allows you to edit system policies, and it allows you to interact with the system behind the scenes. A shared account, like a generic account, this is an account that can be accessed by more than one user. Generally, it's a very low permission account. A guest account is the lowest permission account. Essentially, you can access the system, maybe get on the internet and check your email, but that's about all you can do with a guest account. And then a service account is an account set up for an application or a program or some piece of hardware that has to have a user account. And this type of account is set up for that. It's not necessarily intended to be used by a person. It's intended to give access to a program or to some kind of a bot on the network. Got another challenge activity, and at that point, you have completed the 4th section of the module. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. I can be reached through the Canvas inbox or through the Ask Me in Class. Go through these, make sure you're staying caught up with quizzes and with challenge activities and the participation activities. Also, make sure you're keeping up with the virtual labs. They are part of your grade as much as the hands-on lab is. And I will see you in class.